Hey everyone, I'm Ron Shaw, and this is my submission for Postbellum Stories in America. I really struggled to find someone who embodied the period. However, when I was doing the reading, I remembered a novel I had read, Lonesome Dove. It was the 1972 Pulitzer Prize winning novel from Larry McMurtry, and I thought the characters in there really brought out this period well. Well, I found out that one of the main ones, Woodrow Call, is based on a real life cowboy named Charles Goodnight. So I chose him. He was accused oftentimes of not having a good education or business savvy, but he had tremendous success in capitalizing on what he saw were his core attributes and what he was. He had an astute common sense, and he used that to make some great decisions to have business success. He started off life like the characters in Lonesome Dove as a Texas Ranger. He enlisted in the Confederate Army, but never really made it to the front lines. He protected settlements in the Confederate frontier against the Kiowa and Comanche Indians. After the war, he assessed himself and said, I have two skills, being a Texas Ranger and being a cowboy. How can I use those to make a living? Well, he started by rounding up a lot of the feral cattle from the ranches that had fallen into disrepair in Texas. And he sold some to the government there, but realized that there was a need for cattle out west. And this was fortuitous for him because Confederate veterans didn't have a whole lot of opportunity in the East or even in Texas. But out west, many of the war was more easily overlooked in business deals. Well, he ended up gathering a herd with his new partner, Oliver Loving, and they took advantage of the open range, which was, we learned in the sod busting book that the plains were not claimed for a good period after the Civil War, and to drive his cattle into the Western territories where the Army and the railheads were interested in paying good top dollar for these for beef. So he established a new trail, and he actually, you could see in the green, he started in central Texas at Fort Belknap, but went kind of southwest and circled around the Comanche and Kiowa territories that he knew very well were dangerous, and used his skill to transport this herd into New Mexico and sell it to the Army. His partner brought the rest of the herd up north to Denver and the Cheyenne railheads while he went back for more cattle. They were very successful in this. Along the way, he invented the chuck wagon, which allowed these drives to be sustained by feeding cowboys on the go. Well, around 1872, he saw the claims coming up as we read about in the sod busting book, and he realized the open range was closing quick. So he decided it was a good time to try to consolidate his money and make a ranch for themselves. Oliver Loring had actually died in an Indian fight. He had brought him all the way back to Texas from New Mexico, similar to the story in Lonesome Dove, to bury him in Texas. Well, unfortunately, this plan for Goodnight went awry with the Panic of 1873, as we read about in the Milton Friedman article, and he lost his investments in public land and other things. So he had to solicit foreign investment, much like the sodbusters after the Panic of 1873, which we read about in chapter 4 of this week's reading in Sodbuster, that he used an Ulster Scotsman named John Archer and founded the J.A. Ranch in the Texas Panhandle. It was an enormous ranch. At its height, it was well over 1 million acres and had tens of thousands of heads of cattle. It was accused, though, of limiting the common grazing area, which was very similar to the arguments we read about in the Tragedy of the Commons article this week, that the J.A. Ranch had fenced around state-owned Texas common grazing areas. So they were there's some court depositions from Goodnight where he testified that he had fenced in over 340,000 acres, which had to come down to allow public access. He retired finally after working, founding the J.A. Ranch and working then with his John Archer's widow. He wrote extensively for a retired cowboy with an autobiography and other essays. He's known as the father of the Texas Panhandle and is memorialized in Lonesome Dove. Cornelia Adair, John Adair's widow, she made the quote that he lacks business savvy, but I think you'll agree that he is a model for doing the best with what you have and making astute decisions to maximize your assets. All right, I look forward to seeing all your videos, and I hope you have a great week.